There we go. Great. So we're so happy to be here. We've had a great time visiting a lot of your studios and getting feedback from you, and we're huge fans of your work. We're so excited to be here for the LightWave Creators Winter Session that D-Storm and Yoshi are hosting, and so thank you for coming. So our new slogan this year has been Join the Rebellion. So what we mean by that is a rebellion by choosing a pipeline that supports the artist, includes the full rendering capability, modeling capability, and is different from the other offerings that are available. So I'm just going to cover a couple of important points about what makes LightWave unique. A lot of you already know this, but I just want to mention these very briefly, these concepts. Before I start this section, I just want to reiterate that I'm going to point out the strengths of LightWave's current architecture, but that doesn't mean that we are opposed to integrating functionality between modeling and animation in some form. So some people assume that when I point out the strengths of the current workflow that we are not changing some things, but that's not true. I'd also like to point out that with us here, we do have one of the team members, David Ikeda, who was the lead designer, programmer of Chronosculpt and also works on the LightWave project. There's David Ikeda there. So basically, myself and Lino, and I know David is a LightWave user, not just the president of the company, but have been using the software for over 20 years. So we love the software. We know the software very well. So the concept that was original in the architecture is very similar to the way an actual studio works. In a regular studio setting, for film and television, for example, you build the props first, and then those, once they're completed, those are then taken to the shooting stage where the sets are assembled, and then the filming begins with the camera. It would be very inefficient to try to go to the stage and start building your props in the middle of the floor while the crew is trying to do other things, set the lighting, for example. In a similar fashion, LightWave's architecture replicates the prop shop where you build the props and the models, and then you go to the layout stage with the camera and you shoot. This is very similar to production. There are huge benefits to this, workflow benefits, because of the object referencing system. With object referencing, if you have 5,000 shots that have been set up, and the design of your model changes, you can update all 5,000 shots instantly by changing the one object that is referenced in those scenes. It's very efficient for production. Additionally, LightWave has always had an ASCII-based text file scene format. That is very robust for production, because if you include everything, objects and the whole scene overhead, in one binary file, it's very easy to become corrupted, and then you lose everything. So with LightWave, you currently have a very unique workflow compared to the other softwares in the industry that oftentimes combine a lot of overhead together into the scene. I just wanted to mention these benefits of the architecture because oftentimes the comments are, LightWave needs to be integrated like 3D Max or like Maya or like some other application. And no one has pointed out the benefits of having a separate workflow. There's weaknesses, but there's also great benefits. I want to point the benefits out as well. So I got in trouble before online because I didn't mention that because I point out the strengths does not mean that we're not aware of the weaknesses, and we are working on ways to eliminate those weaknesses. And things like being able to edit your geometry, your vertices, your polygons from camera view. That's very important. We're aware of these. We're acutely aware of these limitations, and we're going to be coming out with some very unique updates and workflows, but we're going to maintain the strengths of LightWave, whatever direction we move in. 'Cause, 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 So that's just an animation that proves the point. How many of you have used software that uses arbitrary unit systems? One unit. So if you're trying to do something like match a set design, or different artists at different studios are building two different assets, you don't want that. No, you want this, consistent. So real-world units, which is part of LightWave's architecture always, is so important. Not one unit like possibly, say, Maya does, but LightWave is a very intelligent system for real-world measurement. This is particularly important when you're doing something like set design, because oftentimes you have to match a design that has been done by set designers very specifically. So you have to have real-world measurement units to make it very easy to do that. That's another great strength of LightWave's modeler. And I just want to add some experience here from my own work. You know, I worked on a project called Avatar in 1010, and particularly on Avatar, there were a lot of artists using different software. Different designers would use XSI, or Motion Builder, or Maya, or LightWave, 3D Max. But the problem was to understand the scale when something was exported to work in the pipeline. Oftentimes, those artists had to resort to exporting a 1-meter cube with the geometry so they could know the scale of the object. I mean, that's ridiculous. So LightWave did not have that problem at all. You always know the size of something. 1-meter cube is crazy. That's so silly. Anyway. So the point of that is, oftentimes you're seeing some software companies now resort to cloud-based licenses where you rent the software, and when your license is over, it stops working. We don't do that. You don't have to have a forced subscription program with LightWave. When you buy the software, you own the software. Now, I will add the benefits of a cloud approach we love. Things like rendering through the cloud. We're researching. We have some research now with certain companies to offer that as a solution. We love, and we have implemented in your user account, you can always go and download your software that you've purchased. Whatever version you own, you can always get it. So that's good cloud, and we do that. But we don't force you to continue a subscription so that your software works. Also, as you know, LightWave has a renderer, a great renderer built in, an award-winning renderer with unlimited rendering nodes. And here are just some examples of users' artwork using the renderer built into LightWave. This is from NASA. They recently did all of these animations for the Mars rover, all done with LightWave. We recently had a contest for LightWave users, and this shot was #1, and this was, I believe, 2nd place, and this was 3rd place. Each one of those was done by one artist. They did the design, modeling, texturing, rendering of the final images. So that's what LightWave brings to the table, is everything that they needed to do that. We have a large number of users that also use LightWave for architectural visualization, and its great global illumination renderer does great work. Sahin Michael Duran is one of our power users in Turkey, and he said, if I said it once, by the time other artists open their software, we've already gotten paid with using LightWave. So if you've tried to use other software, you've noticed how sometimes it opens very slowly, and then LightWave, you open it, it just opens very fast. So that was a comment about that. Highlight features of LightWave 11.6. We're going to be covering those after my presentation. These are just some of the highlights: the modeling update, surfacing, rigging, the object referencing we discussed, animation, rendering, VPR, bullet dynamics, industry standards. But that's coming in the next presentation. What I want to cover now is some of the cool new shows that are being done currently in Hollywood using LightWave. So I'm going to cover an overview of the current shows.
これは最近の、作品の、こちらです。
So what you saw there was, primarily LightWave and possibly After Effects. When you look at another company's reel, you're going to see maybe their software with a lot of other plugins and tools and an external renderer on their reel. So when you look at their reel and you look at our reel, you should say, what am I looking at? With this, you're looking at a lot of LightWave, maybe some After Effects compositing. But the renderer, the modeling, the texturing, the animation, the smoke effects, hypervoxels, it's all in our software. So another area that LightWave is used very strongly, but we haven't shown at this event before, is the motion graphics area. For television design, motion graphics work is very important. And this is a reel that we put together of nothing but motion graphics work. I wanted to share that with you as well.
今度はモーショングラフィックスでの使用例をお見せしたいと思います。
Shows a little bit different type of design other than television and film production. So you have everything you need with LightWave to do some really great work. Marita-san, yes. That's awesome. So
森田さんの作品も
also want to point out some of the social resources that we have added recently. We have the official LightWave 3D group on YouTube. There's something posted, a lot of videos, a lot of tutorials are there, so please check that out if you get a chance. We also have some on the LightWave 3D website. We also have Facebook and Twitter. In fact, I just posted this presentation on Facebook before we started, so hopefully everybody's watching around the world this presentation. So now I want to show you something really special we prepared for just this event. We're going to share with you some of the current shows, some footage that we've put together with the studios, with the great help of the studios, to show some great work from a new show called Defiance. And then later we're going to show you some other shows. But Defiance is a new show that's entering its second season in the United States on Sci-Fi Channel. Defiance is headed by the fantastic Gary Hutzel and Doug Drexler, both multiple Emmy Award winners, and Doug won an Oscar for his work on Star Trek. So they are the people behind the visual effects of Defiance. So you may know their work because together they've worked on this list of projects. From Starship Troopers to Star Trek series, Voyager, Deep Space Nine, Enterprise, Battlestar Galactica, Blood and Chrome, and Blood and Chrome was the project they did right before Defiance. So Gary and Doug have a very unique team that they've put together at Universal Studios, and they have a great, unique approach to usually very costly visual effects, very time-consuming visual effects, television, science fiction, which prevents a lot of shows from being created. But Gary and Doug have a very unique workflow with their great talented artists that they use for their shows. I want to go back in time a little bit and discuss the first visual effects show that hit television in the US in 1993. I was in college at the time and saw this show on TV and eventually got to work on Babylon 5 at Netter Digital. But what you'll notice at the time, LightWave visual effects animation was only used for the spaceships and the exterior shots, effect shots. It was not used for the sets. They still had to build all of these sets. That was very expensive to build these sets, but you also had to have studios to house the sets, and it limited the number of locations you could go to in the show. So it kind of, prevented you from doing whatever you could imagine. So these are some shots from Blood and Chrome. If you haven't seen Blood and Chrome, the Battlestar Galactica 2-hour movie that Gary Hutzel and Doug Drexler's team created, you need to get the DVD and see Blood and Chrome. It's amazing, amazing work. 2,000 visual effects shots in a 2-hour show. It's never been done before for television. Look at this set, look at that, and look at that. Virtual sets, using LightWave with Gary's team, are more flexible. They have more creative freedom because they can go anywhere. They don't have to build it. They can do it with LightWave in the computer. It has a higher production value look, much more expensive looking, and it saves a lot of money. This is just the actor on green screen. The whole environment and character, the atmosphere was all created in LightWave with compositing, effects work. Just the actor was shot. So again, those real-world measurements for set design are very useful, very important in this process for virtual sets. Gary said, shooting Defiance, that they did the entire show in green screen, and I mean the entire show. So out of 89 minutes, he estimated that only 3 minutes were filmed with a set. The rest was all green screen and LightWave elements. So you can see there's some of the great shots that they've done on the show.
これがいくつかのカットの、例ですね。
And what I'm going to show you now is a little video clip that we assembled just for this event, showing some of the construction, how they put together the virtual sets from the show Defiance.
そしてこのイベントのために、ご用意させていただきました、バーチャルセットの、作り方をちょっとお見せしたいと思います。Blocking.
You used to have to buy massive just to do those crowd scenes, you know? That's great. So, you know, there's no other American television science fiction like what Gary Hutzel and Doug Drexler are doing. From Battlestar Galactica series all the way through Blood and Chrome, and now with Defiance. The production value for television is crazy. It's out of this world. You know, I want to see more of those kinds of shows. But there's a reason why there's a limited group of production companies that can do that kind of work, and it comes down to the pipeline. If you're using other software pipelines, it is much too costly, much too complex. The external renderers, the scripting, all the things on top of it, the extra stuff, you can't do it on television budget and schedule. And the choice of LightWave for the pipeline has made this show possible. And that's what Gary Hutzel said to me. So I want to see more of that stuff because I'm a big fan of science fiction. Okay, MFX is a company that is also doing television visual effects, but they do shows like Big Bang Theory and Dexter and those other shows. When you watch the show, you would never think it's a virtual set with LightWave. You'd think it's real. They went on location and they shot on location. This is going to show you how they use LightWave to save money and do those shows without going on location. So I'm going to show the reel from our great friends at MFX, and Chris Zapara is one of the leads there, an amazingly talented Emmy Award-winning artist and a good friend of mine. But let's see their work because it's amazing. You're going to see mostly what you're looking at is live action plate, LightWave CG, and After Effects and Nuke compositing. That's all. So I just want to say, you know, thank you for listening to my presentation, and, you know, hopefully it gives some ideas about how LightWave can be used in a very efficient way to make shows possible that other people may say are too expensive to produce, too complex to produce, too time-consuming. This shows that when you use a more efficient pipeline with everything included, the renderer, modeling with LightWave, they can do these shows. And I want to see more shows like this, not less. We are great fans of your work. Thank you so much for your beautiful work. We are huge fans. We own most of the DVDs that we can find in the US of your work. So I just want to say, you know, domo arigato, and thank you so much.